At Maple Ridge High, Ethan Harper was the kid everyone underestimated. Overweight and shy, he was an easy target for the school bullies, led by the ruthless Jake Thompson. But what they didn't know was that Ethan was about to turn the tables in a way they'd never expect. How does a boy labeled as weak rise to become an unstoppable force? This is the story of a fight that changed everything. Maple Ridge High was a large, bustling school filled with students of all kinds, but not everyone felt welcome there. Jake Thompson, the self-proclaimed king of the school, made sure of that. He and his gang of troublemakers roamed the hallways looking for easy targets to bully. Jake's gang included his loyal but equally nasty sidekicks, Brad and Tony, who followed his every order. They enjoyed making others feel small, and they took pride in causing chaos. Their favorite target was Ethan Harper, a quiet, overweight student who preferred to stay invisible. Ethan always kept his head down, hoping Jake wouldn't notice him. But no matter how much Ethan tried to avoid them, Jake and his gang found ways to make his life miserable. Jake would yell at Ethan from across the hall, calling him cruel names like Fat Boy or Slowpoke. Sometimes, Jake would shove Ethan into lockers, laughing loudly as Ethan stumbled. Other students either ignored the bullying or looked away, afraid to get involved. Ethan often felt like he was completely alone, trapped in a cycle of torment he couldn't escape. Despite the constant bullying, Ethan wasn't completely alone. He had two loyal friends, Leo and Ryan, who stuck by him through thick and thin. Leo, the brains of the group, loved science and had a quick wit. He often made sarcastic jokes to lighten the mood, even when things felt tough. Ryan, on the other hand, was creative and sensitive. He loved to draw and express himself through art, but his softer personality made him another target for Jake's gang. "You know Jake's just overcompensating," Leo said one day as they sat together in the cafeteria. "He's probably scared of mirrors because they show his real face. A jerk." Ethan smiled faintly at Leo's joke, but the weight of the bullying still lingered. "Yeah, but it's not just me. He's awful to Ryan too." Ryan shrugged, pretending it didn't bother him. "I'm used to it, but I wish he'd leave you alone for once, Ethan." Ethan appreciated his friend's support, but the endless insults and humiliation wore him down over time. At night, he would lie awake, replaying the day's events in his mind, wishing he could do something to change his situation. One chilly morning, Ethan and his friends were walking to school when Jake and his gang blocked their path. Jake stepped forward, smirking. "Well, well, look who it is," Jake said, his voice dripping with mockery. "Got any spare cash, Ethan? Maybe enough for, let's say, $200? Ethan froze. "I don't have that kind of money," he said quietly, trying to avoid eye contact. Jake leaned in closer, his smirk turning into a sneer. "You've got a week to find it, fat boy, or else." Brad and Tony laughed, as Jake gave Ethan a hard shove, sending him stumbling backward. Leo and Ryan tried to step in, but Jake glared at them. "Stay out of it, or you're next." Ethan and his friends walked away quickly, their hearts pounding. "What are you going to do?" Ryan asked, his voice trembling. "I don't know," Ethan replied. "I don't even have $20, let alone $200. Later that day, as Jake was harassing Ethan in the cafeteria, a tall, confident senior named Daniel stepped in. Daniel was known around school as a skilled boxer, someone who didn't take kindly to bullies. "Leave the kid alone, Jake," Daniel said firmly, his voice carrying a quiet authority. Jake hesitated, his smirk faltering. Even he knew better than to mess with Daniel. "We were just joking around," Jake muttered, backing off. Daniel turned to Ethan, giving him a reassuring nod. "Don't let guys like him push you around." Ethan was speechless. It was the first time anyone had stood up for him like that. For a moment, he felt a spark of hope, like maybe things could change, but Jake wasn't done. The next day during class, Jake decided to humiliate Ethan in front of everyone. As Ethan walked past him with a lunch tray, Jake stuck out his foot, causing Ethan to trip and spill his food all over himself. The room erupted with laughter as Ethan scrambled to pick up his tray, his face burning with embarrassment. Jake leaned back in his chair, grinning smugly. "Careful there, clumsy." That night, Ethan sat silently at the dinner table, pushing his food around on his plate. His mother noticed his distant expression. "Is everything okay, Ethan?" she asked gently. "Yeah," Ethan lied, "just tired." But deep down, he felt broken. He didn't know how much more he could take. The turning point came when Jake's gang cornered Ethan after school, demanding the $200. Just as Jake raised his fist, an elderly man's voice boomed. "That's enough!" Jake turned to see Mr. Carter, an older man who lived nearby. Jake sneered, but decided to back off, muttering under his breath as he walked away. Mr. Carter helped Ethan to his feet. "Are you okay, kid?" Ethan nodded, though his face was bruised and his pride even more so. Mr. Carter invited him to his home, where Ethan noticed photos of a younger Mr. Carter in boxing gloves. "You used to box?" Ethan asked. "Sure did," Mr. Carter said. "And you know what? You've got potential too. You just need to learn to stand up for yourself." Ethan begged Mr. Carter to teach him how to fight. At first, Mr. Carter was hesitant. "Boxing isn't just about throwing punches," he warned. "It takes discipline and hard work." "I'll do whatever it takes," Ethan promised. Eventually, Mr. Carter agreed and took Ethan to Manny's gym, a gritty, no-nonsense boxing facility. Manny, a gruff but kind coach, looked Ethan up and down. "You sure you're ready for this?" Ethan nodded. "Yes, sir," Manny smiled slightly. "Then let's get started." Training was harder than Ethan expected. Every morning he woke up early to practice footwork, punching techniques, and defensive moves. His muscles ached, and sweat poured down his face, but he kept going. "You're doing good, kid," Mr. Carter said after one particularly tough session. "But remember, boxing isn't just physical. You've got to be strong in here, too." He tapped his temple. Ethan began to feel changes in himself. His punches were sharper, his movements quicker, and his confidence slowly started to build. As the days passed, Ethan grew stronger, both physically and mentally. He started standing taller and speaking with more confidence. One day when Jake cornered Ryan in the hallway, Ethan stepped in. "Leave him alone, Jake," he said firmly. Jake laughed. "Or what?" Ethan didn't flinch. "Try me." Jake seemed momentarily taken aback, but ultimately walked away. For the first time, Ethan felt like he had some control over his life. The tension between Jake and Ethan finally reached its breaking point when Jake demanded the $200 in front of the entire school. "You've got one day, Harper," Jake sneered. Ethan took a deep breath and replied, "Give me 1 month, and if you still want to fight, I won't back down." The crowd buzzed with excitement. Whispers of a showdown spread through the school like wildfire. Ethan knew he had 1 month to prepare, and he was determined not to let Jake win. The day of the fight arrived, and the schoolyard was buzzing with energy. Whispers of Ethan versus Jake had spread like wildfire, and nearly every student had gathered to watch. Jake stood at one end, surrounded by his gang, while Ethan approached with a quiet determination. Though nervous, Ethan didn't let it show. Manny and Mr. Carter stood in the distance, silently watching their student. Manny crossed his arms, his face serious but hopeful. "He's ready," he muttered to Mr. Carter. Jake smirked as Ethan came closer. "This is going to be fun," Jake said, cracking his knuckles. Ethan didn't respond. He dropped his bag and prepared himself. The fight began with Jake swinging wildly, his fists aimed at Ethan's face. But Ethan had trained for this moment. He dodged the punches with practiced precision, his footwork keeping him out of harm's way. The crowd gasped as Ethan countered, landing a clean jab to Jake's side. Jake stumbled but quickly regained his footing. Anger flared in his eyes. "You think you're tough now?" he snarled, charging forward again. Ethan stayed calm, blocking Jake's blows and waiting for an opening. When the moment came, he delivered a powerful uppercut that sent Jake reeling. The crowd erupted in cheers as Jake fell to the ground, stunned. Jake's gang tried to step in, but Leo and Ryan, who had been watching from the sidelines, rushed forward. "Not today," Leo said firmly, standing between Jake's gang and Ethan. Ryan joined him, his fists clenched. Together, they made it clear that no one would interfere. Jake slowly got back to his feet, his face red with frustration. But this time, he didn't attack. He looked at Ethan, who stood tall and unwavering, and saw something he hadn't expected. Strength. "You win," Jake muttered, turning to leave. The crowd parted as he walked away, defeated. As Jake disappeared into the crowd, Ethan felt a wave of relief wash over him. The months of training, the pain, and the effort had all paid off. He looked at Leo and Ryan, who gave him thumbs up, their faces beaming with pride. Manny and Mr. Carter approached him, their expressions full of approval. "You did good, kid," Manny said, clapping him on the shoulder. Real good. But Ethan wasn't just proud of the fight. He was proud of himself. For the first time in his life, he felt like he had taken control, standing up not only for himself, but for his friends too. The story didn't end there, though. Videos of the fight, recorded by students, quickly went viral on social media. People praised Ethan for his bravery and his refusal to back down. Teachers who had once overlooked the bullying finally took notice, implementing stricter policies to protect students from harassment. Ethan's story spread beyond Maple Ridge High, catching the attention of the local news. A reporter reached out to interview him, eager to learn more about the boy who had stood up to a bully and inspired his peers. During the interview, Ethan was asked what gave him the strength to face Jake. "It wasn't just about me," Ethan explained. "I wanted to show everyone that you don't have to be afraid. Even if you feel small, you can find strength in yourself." The segment aired on television, and Ethan became something of a local hero. People in the community admired his courage, and other kids at school began to see him in a new light. Life at Maple Ridge High changed for the better. Jake's gang no longer terrorized the hallways, and the atmosphere felt lighter. Ethan, Leo, and Ryan became closer than ever, their bonds strengthened by the challenges they had faced together. Even Adrian, a girl Ethan had admired from afar, started talking to him more. They often shared lunch together, and their friendship began to blossom into something more. Adrian admired Ethan's strength, not just in the fight, but in how he had grown as a person. Ethan's confidence also inspired others to stand up for themselves. Ryan started sharing his artwork more openly, no longer afraid of judgment, and Leo began tutoring younger students who struggled with science. One afternoon, Ethan sat with Mr. Carter outside the gym, reflecting on everything that had happened. "I couldn't have done it without you," Ethan said sincerely. Mr. Carter smiled. "All I did was show you the way. The strength was always in you, Ethan. You just needed to see it for yourself." Ethan nodded, his heart swelling with gratitude. He realized that the lessons he had learned went beyond boxing. He had discovered the power of perseverance, self-belief, and the importance of standing up for what's right. As the school year continued, Ethan's life transformed. He wasn't just the shy, overweight kid anymore. He was someone who had faced his fears and come out stronger. And though his journey hadn't been easy, it had shaped him into the person he was meant to be. The story ends with a reminder: never underestimate someone who seems weak. With determination and support, anyone can rise above their struggles and prove their strength to the world.